Good afternoon, everyone. It's Sunday, and as you know, it's time to read some classics. Test Reading Club members are here today to read out Book 8 of Paradise Lost. So, read along and enjoy.
The four central books of Paradise Lost, ending with this one, function as the sort of flashback in the main story. Strictly speaking, they are not, because the main framing narrative continues to move forward in time, but we experience them as flashback. But all that the main narrative shows us is characters who tell each other what happened at an earlier stage. Here, in Book 8, Adam and Raphael continue to talk about the origins of things, and Adam manifests that curiosity that is already a dominating human characteristic. Raphael's advice about that is to curb it. Solicit not thy thoughts with matters hid, till be lowly wise. Easier said than done, we might think. And Raphael indulges in his own curiosity when he asks Adam to tell him about how he was created, because that happened when Raphael was elsewhere. So Adam tells of his awakening, his wish for a companion, and the creation of Eve. Again comes a warning from Raphael, who advises Adam not to be intoxicated by her beauty, which is worthy well, thy cherishing, thy honoring, and thy love, not thy subjection. However, when Adam asks whether angels themselves express their love in a physical way, Raphael blushes. Not only do angels eat, as we saw in Book 5, it seems that they can experience a gaseous kind of sexual intercourse. And with that, the long digression comes to an end. The argument. Adam inquires concerning celestial motions, is doubtfully answered, and exhorted to search rather things more worthy of knowledge. Adam assents, and still desirous to detain Raphael, relates to him what he remembered since his own creation, his placing in paradise, in his talk with God concerning solitude and fit society, his first meeting and nuptials with Eve, his discourse with the angel thereupon, who after abominations repeated departs.
The angels ended, and in Adam's ear so charming left his voice, that he awhile thought him still speaking, still stood fixed to hear. Then, as new waked, thus gratefully replied, what thanks sufficient or what recompense equal have I to render thee, divine historian, who thus largely hast allayed the thirst I had of knowledge, and vouchsafed this friendly condescension or to relate things else by me unsearchable, now heard with wonder but delight, and, as is due, with glory attributed to the high Creator. Something yet of doubt remains, which only thy solution can resolve. When I behold this goodly frame, this world of heaven and earth consisting, and compute their magnitudes, this earth a spot, a grain, an atom, with the firmament compared, and all her innumerable stars that seem to roll spaces incomprehensible. For such, the distance argues and their swift return diurnal, merely to officiate light round this opaquous earth, this punctual spot, on day and night in all their vast survey. Useless besides, reasoning I oft admire, how nature wise and frugal could commit such disproportions, with superfluous hands, so many nobler bodies to create, greater so manifold to this one use. For aught appears, and on their orbs impose such restless revolutions day by day repeated, while the sedentary earth, that better might with far less compass move, served by more noble than herself, attains her end without least motion, and receives as tribute such a sumless journey brought of incorporeal speed, her warmth and light, speed to describe whose swiftness number fails. So spake our sire, and by this countenance seemed entering on studious thoughts abstruse, which Eve perceiving where she sat retired in sight, with lowliness majestic from her seat, and grace that one who saw to wish her stay, rose and went forth among her fruits and flowers to visit how they prospered, bud and bloom. Her nursery, they at her coming sprung, and touched by her fair tendance gladier grew. Yet went she not, and not with such discourse delighted, or not capable her ear of what was high. Such pleasure she reserved, Adam relating, she sole auditress, her husband, the relator she preferred before the angel, and of him to ask choose rather. He, she knew, would intermix grateful digressions and solve high dispute with conjugal caresses from his lip, not word alone pleased her. Or when meet now such pairs, and in love and mutual honor joined, with goddess like demeanor forth she went, not unattended for on her as queen. A pomp of winning graces waited still, and from about her shot darts of desire, into all eyes to wish her still in sight. And Raphael now to Adam stout proposed, benevolent and facile thus replied, to ask or such I blame thee not, for heaven is not as book of God before thee set, wherein to read his wondrous works and learn his seasons, hours or days, or months or years, to attain whether heaven move or earth.
Imports not, if thou reckon right, the rest from man or angel, the great architect, did wisely to conceal and not divulge his secrets to be scanned by them who ought rather admire, or if they list to try, conjecture, he, his fabric of the heaven, hath left to their disputes, perhaps to move his laughter at their quaint opinions wide. Hereafter, when they come to model heaven and calculate the stars, how they will wield the mighty frame, how built, unbuilt, contrived to save appearances, how gird the sphere with centric and eccentric scribbled over. Cycle and epicycle, orb in orb, already by thy reasoning this I guess, who art to lead thy offspring, and supposest that bodies bright and greater should not serve, the less nor bright, nor heaven with such journeys run? Earth sitting still, when she alone receives the benefit, consider first, that great or bright infers not excellence, the earth, though in comparison of heaven, so small, not glistering, may of solid good contain more plenty than the sun that barren shines, whose virtue on itself works no effect, but in the fruitful earth there first received. His beams, unactive else, their vigor find. Yet not to earth are those bright luminaries officious, but to thee, earth's habitant. And for the heaven's wide circuit, let it speak, the Maker's high magnificence, who built so spacious and his line stretched out so far, that man may know he dwells not in his own, an edifice too large for him to fill, lodged in a small partition, and the rest ordained for uses to his Lord best known. The swiftness of those circle attribute, though numberless, to his omnipotence, that to corporeal substance could add. Speed almost spiritual, me thou thinkest not slow, who since the morning hour set out from heaven, where God resides, and ere midday arrived in Eden, distance inexpressible by numbers that have name. But this I urge, admitting motion in the heaven, to show invalid that which thee to doubt is moved, not that I so affirm, though so it seem. God, to remove his ways from human sense, placed heaven from earth so far that earthly sight, if it presume, might err in things too high, and no advantage gain. What if the sun be the center to the world, and other stars, by his attractive virtue and their own incited, dance about him in various rounds? Their wandering course now high, now low, then head, progressive, retrograde, or standing still. In sixth thou seest, in what the, if seventh to these, the planet Earth, so steadfast though she seem, insensibly three different motions move, which else to several spheres thou must describe, moved contrary with thwart obliquities. Or save the sun his labor, and that swift, nocturnal, and diurnal romps opposed, invisible else above all stars, the wheel of day and night, which needs not thy belief. If earth industrious of her self fetched day, travelling east and with her past part averse from the sun's beam meet night, what other part still luminous by his ray?
What if that light sent from her through the wide transpacious air to the terrestrial moon be as a star, enlightening her by day as she by night this earth? Reciprocal if land be there, fields and inhabitants, her spots though ceased as clouds, and clouds may rain, and rain produce fruits in her softened soil, for some to eat allotted there, and other suns perhaps, with their attendant moons, thou wilt discrete, communicating male and female light, which two great sexes animate the world, stored in each orb, perhaps with some that live, for such vast room in nature unpossessed by living soul, desert and desolate, only to shine, yet scarce to contribute each orb a glimpse of light, conveyed so far down to this habitable, which returns light back to them is obvious to dispute, but whether thus these things or whether not, whether the sun predominant in heaven rise on the earth or earth rise on the sun, rise on the earth or earth rise on the sun, he from the east his flaming road began, or she from west her silent course advance with inoffensive pace, that spinning sleeps on her soft exile, while she paces even and bears thee soft with the smooth air along. Solicit not thy thoughts with matters hid, leave them to God above, him serve and fear of other creatures as him pleases best, wherever placed, let him dispose joy though in what he gives to thee, this paradise and thy fair Eve. Heaven is for thee too high to know what passes through. Be lowly wise. Think only what concerns thee and thy being. Dream not of other worlds, what creatures there live, in what state, condition, or degree. Contented that thus fair hath been revealed, not of earth only, but of heaven, highest heaven. To whom thus Adam, cleared of doubt, replied, how fully hast thou satisfied me, pure intelligence of heaven, angel serene, and freed from intricacies, taught to live the easiest way, nor with perplexing thoughts to interpret the sweet of life, from which God hath bid dwell far off all anxious cares, and not molest us unless we ourselves seek them with wandering thoughts and notions vain, but apt the mind or fancy is to rove unchecked, and of her roving is on no end, till want or by experience thought she learned that not to know at large of things remote from use, obscure and subtle, but to know that which before us lies in daily life is the prime wisdom. What is more is fume or emptiness or fond impenitence and readers as in things that most concern unpracticed, unprepared, and still to see. Therefore, from this high pitch, let us descend a lower flight and speak of things at hand useful, whence haply mention may arise of something not unseasonable to ask by sufferance and thy wanted favor designed. The I have heard relating what was done ere my remembrance. Now hear me relate my story, which perhaps thou hast not heard, and day is yet not spent. Till then thou seest how subtly to deny thee I devise, inviting thee to hear while I relate, fond, were it not in hope of thy reply. For while I sit with thee, I seem in heaven. And sweeter,
And sweeter thy discourse is to my ear than fruits of palm tree pleasantest to thirst, and hunger both from labor at the hour of sweet repast. They satiate and soon fill, though pleasant, but thy words with grace divine, imbued, bring to their sweetness no satiety. To whom thus Raphael answered heavenly meek, nor are thy lips ungraceful, sire of men, nor tongue ineloquent. For God on thee abundantly his gifts hath also poured, inward and outward both. His image fair, speaking or mute, all comeliness and grace attends thee, and each word, each motion forms. Nor less think we in heaven of thee on earth than of our fellow servant, and inquire gladly into the ways of God with man. For God, we see, hath honored thee and set on man his equal love. Say therefore on. For I that day was absent, as befell, bound on a voyage uncouth and obscure, far on excursion towards the gates of hell. Squad in full legion, such command we had, to see that none thence issued for the spy or enemy, while God was in his walk, lest he incensed at such eruption bold, destruction with creation might have mixed. Not that they durst without his leave attempt, but as he sends upon his high behest. For state as sovereign king and to inure our prompt obedience. First we found, fast shut, the dismal gates and barricaded strong. But long are our approaching heard within, noise other than the sound of dance or song. Torment, a loud lament, and furious rage. That we returned up to the coast of light, our Sabbath evening, so we had in church. But thy relation now, for I attend, pleased with thy words no less than thou with mine. So spake the godlike power, and thus our sire. For man to tell how human life began is hard, for who himself beginning knew. Desire with thee still longer to converse induced me. As new, waked from soundless sleep, soft on the flowery hearth, I found me laid in a balmy sweat, which with his beams the sun soon dried, and on the reeking moisture fed. Straight toward heaven my wandering eyes I turned, and gazed awhile the ample sky, till raised by quick instinctive motion up, I sprung, as thitherward indifering, and upright stood on my feet. About me round I saw hill, dell, and shady woods, and sunny plains, and liquid laps of murmuring streams. By these creatures that lived and moved and walked or flew birds on the branches wobbling. All things smiled. With fragrance and with joy, my heart overflowed. Myself I then perused, and limb by limb surveyed, and sometimes waned and sometimes ran with supple joints and lively vigor laid. But who I was, or where, or from what cause, knew not. To speak I tried, and forthwith spake. My tongue obeyed and readily could name whatever I saw. Thou sun, said I, fair light, and thou enlightened art, so fresh and gay, ye hills and dells, ye rivers, woods and plains, and ye that live and move, fair creatures still. Tell if ye saw, how came I thus, how here, not of myself, by some great maker then, in goodness and in power preeminent. Tell me, how may I know him, how adore?
from whom I have that thus I move and live, and feel that I am happier than I know. While thus I called and strayed, I knew not whither. From where I first drew air and first beheld this happy light, when answer none returned. On a green shady bank, profuse of flowers, pensive I sat me down. There gentle sleep first found me, and with the soft oppression ceased. My drowsed sense untroubled, though I thought I then was passing to my former state, insensible, and forthwith to dissolve. When suddenly stood at my head a dream, whose inward apparition gently moved my fancy to believe I yet had been and lived. One came me thought of a shape divine, and said, thy mansion wants thee, Adam, rise. First man of men innumerable ordained, first father called by thee, I come, thy guide, to the garden of bliss, thy seat prepared. So saying, by the hand he took me raised, and over fields and waters as in air, smooth sliding without step, last led me up a woody mountain, whose high top was plain, a circuit wide and closed, and goodliest trees planted, with walks and bowers that what I saw of earth before scarce pleasant seemed. Each tree loaded with fairest fruit that hung to the eye, tempting, stirred in me a sudden appetite to pluck and eat. Whereat I waked and found before mine eyes, all real as the dream had lively shadowed. Here had new begun my wandering. Had not he who was my guide up hither from among the trees appeared, presence divine, rejoicing, but with awe in adoration at his feet I fell, submiss. He reared me, and whom thou soughtest I am, said mildly, author of all this thou seest, above or around, about thee or beneath. This paradise I give thee, counted thine, to till and keep, and of the fruit to eat. Of every tree that in the garden grows, eat freely with glad heart. Fear here no dearth, but of the tree whose operation brings knowledge of good and ill, which I have set, the pledge of thy obedience and thy faith, amid the garden of the tree of life. Remember what I warn thee, shun to taste and shun the bitter consequence. For now the day thou eatest, therefore my sole command transgressed. Inevitable thou shalt die from that day mortal, and this happy state shall lose, expelled from whence into a world of woe and sorrow. Sternly he pronounced the rigid interdiction, which resounds yet dreadful in mine ear, though in my choice not to incur, but soon his clear aspect returned and gracious purpose thus renewed. Not only these fair bounds, but all the earth to thee and to thy race I give, as Lord's possess it, and all the things that therein live in sea or air, beast, fish, and fowl, in sign whereof each bird and beast, behold, after their kinds, I bring them to receive from thee their names, and pay thee fealty with low subjugation. Understand the same of fish within their watery residence, not hither summoned, since they cannot change their element to draw the thinner air. As thus he spake, each word and beast behold, approaching two and two, these covering low, with blandishment, each bird stooped on his wing.
I named them as they passed and understood their nature. With such knowledge, God endured my certain apprehension, but in these I found not what methought I wanted still, and to the heavenly vision thus presumed. Oh, by what name? For thou, above all these above mankind, or that mankind higher surpassest far my naming. How may I adore the author of this universe and all this good to man for whose well-being so imply? And with hands to liberal, thou hast provided all things, but with me, I see not who partakes in solitude what happiness, who can enjoy alone, or all enjoying what contentment find. Thus I presume to us, and the vision bright as with a smile more brightened, thus replied. What callest thou solitude is not the earth with various living creatures, and the air replenished, and all these thy command to come and play before thee. Now as thou not their language and their ways, they also know and reason contemptibly with these fine pastime and bear rule. Thy reign shall charge. So spake the universal Lord, and seemed so ordering. I, with the leave of speech, implored and humble deprecation, thus replied, let not my words offend thee, heavenly power, my maker, be prompt to us while I spake. Hast thou not made me here thy substitute, and these inferior far beneath me set? Among unequals, what society can sort? What harmony or true delight? Which must be mutual in proportion due given and received. But in disparity, the one instance, the other still remains, cannot well suit with either, but soon prove tedious alike of fellowship. I speak such as I seek, fit to participate all rational delight, wherein the brute cannot be human consort. They rejoice each with their kind, loin with loiners, so fitly them in pairs thou hast combined, much less can bird with beast, or fish with fowl, so well converse, nor with the ox the ape worse than can man with beast, and least of all, whereto the Almighty answered, not displeased. A nice and subtle happiness I see thou to thyself proposest in the choice of thy associate Adam, and will taste no pleasure, down pleasure solitary. What thinkest thou then of me and this my state? Seem I to sufficiently possessed of happiness or not, who am alone from all eternity, for none I know second to me or like, equal much less. How much I then with whom to hold converse, save with the creatures which I made, and those to me inferior, infinite descents. Beneath, what other creatures are to thee? He ceased, I lowly answered, to attain the highest height and depth of the eternal ways, all human thought comes short, supreme of things. Thou in thyself art perfect, and in thee is no deficiency found, not so in man, but in degree, the cause of his desire by conversation with his like to help, or solace his defects, no need that thou shouldest propagate already infinite.
And through all numbers absolute, though one, but man by number is to manifest his single imperfection, and beget like of his like, his image multiplied, in unity defective, which requires collateral love and dearest amity. Thou in thy secrecy, although alone, best with thyself accompanied, seekest not social communication, yet so pleased canst raise thy creature to what height thou wilt, of union or communion. Defied, I by conversing cannot these erect from prone, nor in their ways complacence find. Thus I emboldened say, and freedom used, permissive, and acceptance found, which greatness answer from the gracious voice divine. Thus far to try thee, Adam, I was pleased, and find thee knowing not of beast alone, which thou hast rightly named, but of thyself, expressing will the spirit within thee free, my image not imparted to the brute, whose fellowship therefore unmeet for thee, good reason was thou freely shouldest dislike, and be so minded still, I ere thou spakest knew it not good for man to be alone, and no such company as then thou sawest intended thee, for trial only brought, to see how thou couldst judge to fit and meet what next I bring shall please thee. Be assured, thy likeness, thy fit help, thy other self, thy wish exactly to thy heart's desire, he ended, and I heard no more. For now my earthly by his heavenly overpowered, which it had long stood under, and strained to the height, is that celestial colloquy sublime as with an object that excels the sense, dazzled and spent, sunk down and sought repair of sleep, which instantly fell on me, called by nature as in aid, and closed mine eyes. Mine eyes he closed, but open left the cell of fancy, my internal sight, by which, abstract as in a trance methought, I saw, though sleeping, where I lay and saw the shape, still glorious, before whom awake I stood, who stooping opened my left side and took from thence a rib with cordial spirits warm and life blood streaming fresh. Wide was the wound, but suddenly with flesh filled up and healed. The rib he formed and fashioned with his hands. Under his forming hands a creature grew, man-like, but different sex, so lovely fair, that what seemed fair in all the world seemed now mean, or in her summed up, in her contained, and in her looks, which from that time infused sweetness into my heart, unfelt before, and into all things from her air inspired, the spirit of love and amorous delight. She disappeared and left me dark. I waked to find her, or forever to deplore her loss, and other pleasures all abjure, when out of hope behold her, not far off, such as I saw her in my dream, adorned with what all earth or heaven could bestow, to make her amiable. On she came, led by her heavenly Maker, though unseen and guided by his voice, nor uninformed of nuptial sanctity and marriage rites, grace was in all her steps, heaven in her eye, in every gesture dignity and love. I overjoyed joyed could not forbear aloud.
This turn hath made amends. Thou hast fulfilled thy words, Creator bounteous and benign, Giver of all things fair, but fair as this of all thy gifts, not enviest. I now see bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, myself before me. Woman is her name, of man extracted. For this cause he shall forego father and mother, and to his wife adhere, and they shall be one flesh, one heart, one soul. She heard me thus, and though divinely brought, yet innocence and virgin modesty, her virtue and the conscience of her wrath, that would be wooed and not unsought be won, not obvious, not obtrusive, but retired, the more desirable, or to say all nature herself, though pure of sinful thought, wrote in her so, that seeing me she turned. I followed her, she what was honor knew, and with obsequious majesty approved my pleaded reason. To the nuptial bower I led her blushing like the moon. All heaven and happy constellations on that hour shared their secretest influence. The earth gave sign of gratulation, and each hill joyous the birds. Fresh gales and gentle airs whispered it to the woods, and from their wings flung adores from the spicy shrub, disporting till the amorous bird of night on his hilltop to light the bridal lamp. Thus I have told thee all my state and brought my story to the sum of earthly bliss, which I enjoy and must confess to find in all things else delight indeed. But such as used or not, works in the mind no change, nor women desire these delicacies. I mean of taste, sight, smell, herbs, fruits, and flowers, walks, and the melody of birds. But here, far otherwise. Transported I behold, transported touch. Here passion first I felt, commemoration strange in all enjoyments, else superior and unmoved. Here only weak against the charm of beauty's powerful glance. On nature felt in me, and left some part not prove enough such object to sustain, or from my side subjecting, took perhaps more than enough, at least on her bestowed. Too much of ornament in outward show, elaborate of inward, less exact. For well I understand in the prime end of nature her the inferior, in the mind and inward faculties, which most excel, in outward also her resembling less his image who made both, and less expressing the character of their dominion given over other centuries creatures. Yet when I approach her loveliness, so absolute she seems, and in her self complete, so well to know her own, that what she wills to do or say seems wisest, virtuous, discreetest, best. All higher knowledge in her presence falls regarded. Wisdom in discourse with her loses discountenanced, and like folly shows authority and reason on her wit, as one intended first, not after made occasionally, and to consummate all greatness of mind and nobleness, their seat build in her loveliest and create an awe, but her as a guard angelic placed, to whom the angel with contracted brow.
Accuse not nature, she hath done her part. Do thou but thine, and be not diffident. Of wisdom she deserts thee not, if thou dismiss not her, when most thou needest her nigh, by attributing overmuch to things less excellent, as thou thyself perceivest. For what admirest thou? What transports thee so? An outside? Fair no doubt, and worthy well thy cherishing, thy honoring, and thy love. Not thy subjection, weighs with her thyself, than value. Oftentimes nothing profits more than self esteem.
grounded on just and right, well managed. Of that skill, the more thou knowest, the more she will acknowledge thee her head. And do realities yield all her sows, made so adorned for thy delight the more, so awful that with honour thou mayst love thy mate, who sees when thou art seen least wise. But if the sense of touch whereby mankind is propagated seems such dear delight beyond all other, think the same vouchsafed to cattle and each beast, which would not be to them made common and divulged, if aught therein enjoyed were worthy to subdue the soul of man, or passion in him move. What higher in her society thou findest, attractive human, rational love steal? In loving thou dost well, in passion not, wherein true love consists, not love refines. The thoughts and heart enlarges, hath his seat in reason, and its judicious is the scale by which to heavenly love thou mayst ascend, not sunk in carnal pleasure, for which cause among the beasts no mate for thee was found. To whom thus half abashed Adam replied, neither her outside formed so fair, nor aught in procreation common to all kinds, though higher of the genial bade by her far, and with mysterious reverence I deem. So much delights me as those graceful acts, those thousand decencies that daily flow from all her words and actions mixed with love and sweet compliance, which declare unfeigned union of mind, or in us both one soul, harmony to behold in wedded pair, more grateful than harmonious sound to the ear. Yet these subjects not I to thee disclose, what thence I feel not therefore fault, who meet with various subjects from the saints, variously representing yet still free, approve the best and follow what I approve. To love thou blamest me not, for love thou sayest leads up to heaven is both the way and guide. Bear with me then, if lawful, what I ask. Love not the heavenly spirits, and how their love express they. By looks only, or do they mix irradiance, virtual or immediate touch? To whom the angel with a smile that glowed, celestial rosy red, love's proper hue, answered, let it suffice thee that thou knowest us happy, and without love no happiness. Whatever pure thou in the body enjoyest, and pure thou wert created, we enjoy in eminence, and obstacle find none. Of membrane, joint, or climb, or limb, exclusive bars, easier than air with air, if spirits embrace, total they mix, union of pure with pure desiring, nor restraint conveys need, as flesh to mix with flesh, or soul with soul. But I can now no more the parting sun, beyond the earth's green cape and verdant isles. Experience sets my signal to depart. Be strong, live happy, and love. But first of all, him whom to love is to obey and keep his great command. Take heed lest passion sway thy judgment to do aught which else free will would not admit. Thine and of all thy sons the weal or woe in thee is placed. Beware, I in thy preserving shall rejoice, and all the blessed stand fast. To stand or fall free in thine own arbitrament it lies. Perfect within, no outward aid required, and all temptation to transgress repel. So saying, he arose, whom Adam thus followed with benediction, since to part, go heavenly guest, ethereal messenger, sent from whose sovereign goodness I adore. Gentle to me and affable hath been the condescension, and shall be honored ever. With grateful memory, though to mankind be good and friendly still, and oft return. So parted they, the angel up to heaven, from the thick shade and Adam to his bower.
That brings us to the end of book 8. For all our dear friends who couldn't join us from the very beginning, we have Harshika with us to summarize book 8. Over to you, Harshika.
In this book, Adam asks Raphael about the movements of the stars, planets, and relative size of the earth, and why God created such huge heavenly bodies to serve the smaller earth. At this, Eve decided to leave the conversation and tend to her flowers because he would rather hear about them from Adam later. Raphael responds to Adam by saying that size does not necessarily mean importance when it comes to heavenly bodies. Then Adam only says that it should not matter to Adam, who is not meant to know everything about God's creation. Adam and Eve should dream not of other worlds, but leave heavenly matters of God. Adam thanks Raphael for satisfying curiosity and warning him about wandering thoughts and ocean pain. Adam began his story. He woke sweating in the sunlight and immediately walked about exploring the plants and animals that surrounded him. Adam was then visited by a vision of God who explained how and why he has created and gave him dominion over Eden and all its plants and animals. God only forbade one thing. Adam was not to eat the fruit of tree of knowledge and to be expelled from hence into a world of woe and sorrow. Adam realized that he himself had no companion and none of the animals shared his gift to speech and reason. He asked God for a companion. God has pleased with this request, saying it is good for man to be alone, and he put Adam into a mysterious sleep. While he slept, God removed one of Adam's rib, healed and bound, and created Eve from the rib. But Adam could remember this creation. Adam instantly fell in love with her. He announced that he would be his wife, one flesh, one heart, one soul. She then fielded and Adam led her to his bower where they had innocent sex for the first time. Adam knows that she is inferior in mind and soul. Raphael warned Adam to be temperate in his carnal pleasure and to be focused on a pure love between his own soul and Eve, in which Adam is the head and she submit to him, as she is indeed her all but beauty. His physical attraction to Eve comes from their deeper unity of mind and soul. Raphael then says that he must go as the sun is setting, and as he leaves, he again warns Adam to love God before Eve, and for both of them to remain obedient and avoid temptation. Then he returned to his bower while Raphael flies back up to heaven. That was
So that brings end of this session. Let me also announce that on the coming Sunday, we are organizing a readathon to celebrate the birthday of our legendary bard, William Shakespeare, and also World Book Day. If you are interested to join and read live with us, do leave us a message below and let's celebrate this day together. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned. See you next Sunday. Bye bye, everyone. Have a nice day.